It's a video. Hey guys, it's Ginger Jesus, also known as Caleb. Caleb is my real name. Surprisingly, Jesus is not. But today we're doing a little bit of a different video. We are doing kind of like a more at-home kind of thing. Usually I'd be like, hey, here's an Airsoft video. You should check it out. Watch the gameplay. Watch the cool, funny moments. But today we're doing a tips and tricks video. I don't think I've ever done one of these. Definitely not for Airsoft. Almost certainly not for any other content I've done. My other channel, my main channel, Netherfire Studios. Check there for gaming and otherwise cool stuff and things. I have a podcast. We talk about, I say we, me and my brother Luke, we talk about a whole bunch of random stuff, including Airsoft. So check that out. If you, I don't know why I pointed up there. I don't know if you can't click up there. But today we're going to be talking about beginner airsoft gear, kind of what I would recommend you use for your first time playing, or if you're still kind of new to the hobby, you can kind of get into it that way. There's some things you can kind of skip out on if you're going for the rental experience, if you just want to show up with kind of like nothing on you. Not literally, that would be weird. But if you kind of wanted to go like bare bones, okay, I don't know what the sport is about, I don't know what to expect, I'm just going to go in and see what it's like. So I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about if you really do want to invest in the hobby and get some starter equipment. I'll tell you about some things that I personally will recommend to people. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about my personal experience playing Airsoft. I started playing paintball when I was a little younger, maybe around 2014, 2015, somewhere around that range. I played with friends, very bare bones, kind of like in the backyard, in the woods, in a sand pit, some public property somewhere. Very crappy paintball guns, but we were just having fun. We were kids, and so that kind of got me into this world of like, oh, there's this like semi-shooting outdoor activity with friends and family. So then I started looking into other types of outdoor sports, and then Airsoft caught my attention. Not exactly sure how I first found it, but then I started. I never rented. That's a thing that I made the mistake of doing. I used one of my friend's guns for a bit, and then me and some members of my family bought our own guns eventually. I would recommend, first and foremost, if you're saying like, oh, is this sport right for me? Definitely rent first. It's very, very cheap. And I'll get into the costs of beginner gear later on. But yeah, no, so I played primarily in my family's backyard and a friend's backyard for the first couple years. And then occasionally when I had time, we would go to an outdoor field where I grew up in Connecticut, and then eventually going into an indoor field. Very occasionally, very rarely. I didn't own a GoPro at the time, so any video content is actually my friend, Ethan. He had a GoPro, so you can check that out on main channel, Netherfire Studios. You can look back in the archives. You can look on the playlists. Very cool, very chic, very swish. Anyway, and then last year, was it last year? It was last year. I finally got an actually good gun. I got the VFC Avalon. It's a M4 build, sorta. And I bought some other gear to kind of go with that and upgrade my own kit a little bit. And I played with it a couple times. It was a lot of fun, but definitely a step up from what I had before. So anyway, that's me. I am not an expert in any way, shape, or form. I just have my own personal experience. And here we go. So first off, eye protection is the most important thing in Airsoft. It's even more important than having fun. Yes, your own personal safety is key. I would not recommend wearing mesh goggles. That you need to have full seal eye protection. That can be shooting glasses. That can be full seal goggles. That can be like the big chunky ones that paintballers wear. That can be the full face masks. As long as your eyes are completely protected, that's what I would recommend. Mesh goggles and helmets don't work because at high speeds, BBs can actually shatter and go into your eyeball holes and kill you or injure you greatly. As well as sometimes the BBs will just go through the mesh, especially if it's an older mask. Maybe the mesh is rusted on the inside or something and just pops out the back of your skull. We don't want that. So, yeah, full seal goggles. I would make sure that you buy them from an Airsoft website. Amazon usually doesn't specify the durability of the goggles, so sometimes they're unsafe to wear. So I'd recommend going to an Airsoft specific website and check them out. I would recommend Vulcan goggles. Those are the ones that I use. Those are the ones that my family has used in the past. I just find that they're really comfortable. They don't fog up as much. And, you're looking at between 15 and $30 for a pair of good goggles. You can kind of decide what your price range is on that. It's whatever, but as long as it's fully protecting your eyes. And related to that, I want to talk about face protection. So, I have never played a game of Airsoft where the lower half of my face is unprotected. In the past, I always wore masks. In the present day, I use a combination of goggles with a mesh lower mask. Now, this is the one thing that you can kind of stray from what I said before. You can wear a mesh bottom half. It can be as small as covering just your nose and your mouth. It can be all the way across your ears. There's whole different types of shapes and varieties about that. But I just like having teeth. And you don't want to like poke your head into a door or poke your head into a window and there's just a guy staring at you like, "Sir, I see you. I see you very closely." And you don't want to get your face shot point blank. So, a lot of fields they will make younger players wear them just for safety reasons. If you're older, if you're an adult, then you can kind of do what you want. But I personally would recommend the lower face protection. That's anywhere from 10 to 15, maybe $20, depending on how big you want it. If you want it to cover your ears or not. I don't cover my ears. I just do my nose and my mouth. That works for me. Okay. So moving on to your primary, also known as your main firearm. For indoor people, it can be literally any gun you want because it's indoor. But for outdoor, you're probably going to go with an AEG of some kind. That is I don't know, what's it stand for? An airsoft electric gun, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert. So you're going to be wanting a rifle of some kind, even a submachine gun. I would recommend a rifle to start off if it's your first gun. If you are just looking to get into the cheapest way, you'd be like, I don't really care how my gun looks. I don't care how it operates. I just kind of want a main gun to buy and use. You're looking somewhere between the $100 to $200 range, especially if it's a full plastic body, polymer. I would personally recommend if you want your beginner gun to go like this, but definitely once you upgrade and get a more expensive gun down the line, and once you're more comfortable with the sport, get a full metal body. This protects it from being dropped. This protects it from being dropped in the cold. This protects it from any sort of scratching damage or anything like that. It does tend to make the gun a little heavier. And the plastic obviously makes it lighter. So that's kind of personal preference of how much you want to be holding in your hands or whatever. You can always use a sling. I used a 1-point sling for a while. I recently upgraded to a 2-point sling. So it kind of comes across my body laterally like this. 1-point slings will it'll have the same loop around, but it'll be attached at a 1 point, like down by your hip or something, so your gun will dangle. A 2-point sling kind of has your gun lay kind of horizontally across your body rather than dangling down by your side. So I recently changed that. And it takes off a lot of weight, especially if you're traveling or walking between play areas, or when you're actually playing the game, walking from hill to hill or valley to valley. You can kind of have your body take that weight instead of you carrying in your arms. So I would say that the weight of the gun is important, but you'll get used to it eventually. So what I will say about having a primary firearm is make sure that the gun you buy, the battery that you also buy matches. And I'll talk about batteries a little later, but I do want to say real quick that I bought a Echo One GAT General Assault Tool submachine gun a long time ago. It's coming on what, like 7 years at this point. Great gun. I believe it's $110 right now if you buy the version with the stock. I think it's 125. Great little gun. Amazing first gun to buy. The durability is amazing. It shoots far. The internals are peak. It's very light. I think it's 3.5, 4 pounds. But when I wanted to upgrade the battery to it, I bought the wrong kind of battery. I bought a longer stick battery instead of a stubby battery, because where the battery is supposed to go on that gun is in the foregrip at the front of the gun, and it fits in there quite perfectly. But I bought a stick battery, and I had to tape it on the outside. My brother did the exact same thing because we got ours at the exact same time. So, big mistake. Make sure your battery matches your gun. Okay, so yeah, for the primary, you're looking at between $100 to $200 on the extremely cheap end, and I would actually shoot personally for $150 to $250 for your first gun. You just want something that's reliable and that's going to take a little bit of a beating, but also not break your bank account. Words, how do they work? It really depends on what body style you want. The most popular brands are, I say it again, the most popular body styles are M4 and AK, hands down. Those are the most common that you're going to see online, made by various manufacturing companies. But you can also get unique ones. It kind of just depends on what you want the look of your gun to be. As a beginner gun, I wouldn't worry too much about that unless you're really hung up on how cool it looks, which is factor number one when getting a gun. So you can find SCARs, light machine guns, submachine guns, assault rifles, all sorts of different bodies and sizes. So some solid brands that I would recommend is Aries, SEMA, Echo One. That's my personal favorite. I got an Echo One FAL back in the day, as well as that GAT General Assault Tool. They haven't gone wrong. Elite Force, VFC, G&G, Crytek. Crytek is very expensive. That would be a good upgrade later on. KWA and Tokyo Marui. Even though Tokyo Marui kind of isn't competitive nowadays, it's kind of like an older thing, but still works. So yeah, you're looking at that. Batteries and chargers. I talked a little bit about this already. Once you choose your primary replica firearm, you're going to want to see what size battery it can hold. Sometimes the battery will actually go inside the gun, maybe on the barrel or in the foregrip, like my GAT was. But most times it's going to go in the stock. So you're going to want to make sure that your stock is big enough to hold a certain size, whether it's chunky or thin or stick or short or whatever. Just see what people are saying out there, what batteries they use with their gun, the one that you're going to be buying, and you'll figure it out that way. A lot of rental guns will automatically come with a battery, so you don't need to worry about that if you're renting. But once you actually purchase your own, that's going to be very important. So you pretty much always want to go with a 7.4 volt LiPo battery or 11.1 volt LiPo. 11.1 is kind of the higher end for higher guns. It basically, imagine it as gasoline for your car. Mostly you're going to be getting the lowest cost that you want. But if you have a higher end car or a diesel, you're going to be wanting to get those more expensive gasoline varieties. Same thing goes with batteries for Airsoft. 7.4 is kind of the general best battery for you to get. There's also I forget what they're called, like nymph batteries. They're they don't conduct electricity as well. They do last for a long time, and they're very appropriate for a lot of beginner guns. So maybe get a nymph battery. But at the end of the day, I would go with a 7.4 volt. And if you get a higher end gun, like in that $250 range that I said before, if you want to get like the upper end of that for a beginner gun, 11.1 is pretty good too. That's just how it conducts electricity. You're also going to want to get the capacity of the battery, how long it lasts effectively, to be sort of high too. I can't tell you the numbers off the top of my head, but I would just go with the higher thousands for the capacity. So it's not dying in your first 2 games of the day. You can kind of last all day or most of the day if it's cold outside. If you live in the Northeast or in polar climates, definitely you're going to be wanting that battery life. So yeah, batteries will lubricate, quote unquote, your gun's gears and the actual battery lifespan. I will say, if you do get a LiPo battery, make sure you're getting a specific LiPo wall charger. Default battery chargers that come with mini guns or other batteries, the nymph batteries, will not work on a LiPo battery. It's very specific, the wattage and the voltage and all the other electricity terms that there is. Not all chargers are created equal, so make sure you're getting the appropriate charger for your thingy McBobber. BBs, very important. This is a very misunderstood aspect of airsoft, especially if you are a beginner. Lighter BBs may have a higher feet per second, but only at distances where half a second won't even matter. If you're in a close distance, for example, under 50 feet. So your feet per second of your projectile will go up, but over time, and I mean like literally half a second, the BBs will kind of float off and the air resistance will carry them away because given enough force, aerodynamic systems will carry the BB in different directions, especially if there's wind. If there's wind, forget about it. Your BBs are going everywhere. So that means you are going to not generally, you must always avoid 0.12 gram BBs unless you're using a spring pistol or a spring rifle in your backyard with your friends having fun. They're the cheapest, but they're also the worst. Also, the quality that they're being made at in the factories isn't great because they're cheap and mass produced. So, if you have like a cheapo starting gun, 0.2 gram BBs are the way to go. If you have kind of upper higher end beginner gun, that $150 to $200 range, I would get 0.25s. And I personally use 0.3s, but that's just because I have a higher end gun right now, so I'm able to shoot those BBs far and effectively. So yeah, 0.25 is where I would like to put it. The air isn't going to affect it as much, which will allow the BBs to travel through the air a lot faster and a lot farther and more accurately. Important. Accuracy is key. So, and biodegradable versions of everything exist too. So if you're worried about the environment or if you're shooting on your own property and you don't want to look at hundreds of BBs across your yard or your woods, you can get biodegradable BBs. They are a tad bit more expensive, but better for the earth. And that's what we'd like to see. Next, magazines and clips. So, some magazines, unfortunately, are proprietary, even for M4 class guns. So, make sure that the magazine that you're getting is going to work with your gun. It usually will, especially if it's an M4 or AK. 9 times out of 10, it's going to work with your gun. With some machine guns or pistols, you definitely have to triple check if a secondhand magazine that you're getting online will work with your gun. Otherwise, you're going to receive it in the mail and be like, oh, shoot, this don't work for me, bud. So just keep that in mind. Magazines will come in 2 sizes, high cap and mid cap. Here's the difference. High caps hold 200 plus BBs, sometimes up to 500. And there's a little wheel at the bottom where after every burst or so, you have to wind that wheel on the bottom to send the BBs back up the magazine into the gun. So if you're wanting quantity and you're kind of running around and spraying people, great option to have. I played with high caps for the majority of my airsoft experience. I have since switched to mid caps. Mid caps hold less BBs. They usually hold, around 100 generally. The upside is you never have to wind it. Once you put all your BBs in, it's good for the whole magazine. So kind of those realistic operators out there will use mid caps because they don't have to wind the wheel well. They can keep their gun on target, especially if they're in a longer time of engagement with an enemy. You don't have to like put your gun down and wind and then bring your gun back up. You can keep your gun in place and keep fire on whoever you're shooting at. So that's definitely the upside. But obviously the downside is they hold less BBs, so you're gonna have more magazines and manually reload every once in a while. Not too often, but every once in a while. So with high caps, you're usually good with around 2 magazines. They make a lot of noise too because all the BBs are inside that mag, and you're jumping around the woods and it's going chicka, 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 chicka. Mid caps, nope, it's just that's it. No noise because that's the sound I made. So with mid caps, a lot of people will get speed loaders. So they are these bulky systems where you insert your mag into, and you kind of wind this wheel on the side, and it quickly loads up the entire magazine. Instead of you using, a lot of times there will be speed loaders that are like little handheld ones, and you kind of press a lever at the top, and it puts in like 3 BBs at a time. That takes forever. I would recommend an Odin speed loader. You just put your mag in there, wind a wheel for literally about 5 seconds, and boom, your magazine's filled. So for magazines, especially for M4 mags, I recommend anything by PTS. Keep in mind that PTS PTW mags are not for M4s. I made that mistake, and when I received that magazine in the mail, the little nub where it goes up into the gun didn't fit. I think it's for SCARs or AKs or something. It didn't look like an AK mag. It looked like an M4 mag, but that'll just trick you out. All right, so moving on to chest armor. This is kind of optional, especially if you're first getting into airsoft. You don't really need anything to hold your supplies if you really want to. Just wear a jacket that has deep pockets, and you can just shove everything in your pockets. If you really do want to pony up some little bit of money for a chest rig, don't be super operator. Don't be super military and get a plate carrier. Probably not worth it. You probably just want like a battle belt or some kind of vest that has pouches for your magazines, maybe like a little pouch on your shoulder for your dead rag, so when you get hit, you can just pull it out really easily. You don't have to think too much about it. Somewhere in the $50 to $70 range. A little bit expensive, definitely optional, especially if you're getting into it. With gloves, this is kind of up to everyone. A lot of people don't play with gloves. Totally respect that. I prefer my knuckles not to get banged up, especially because what a lot of people don't think about is your arms, head, legs, and feet are going to be shot at the most. You're typically not going to expose your body, your torso area, because that's going to be behind cover. That's your largest mass on your person for people to shoot at. And especially once you're peeking out of a corner, it's going to be your fingers on the outside of the gun and your head. Your head's fully protected. You have goggles, maybe you have a face mask, maybe you have a helmet or a hat, whatever. You're usually safe up there. But your hands are primary. Your hands are typically going to come in front of your face like this. So a lot of people don't protect their fingers. I think that's a mistake. You can get gloves that have hard plastic backs, so it protects you from being damaged. A lot of people wear fingerless gloves. It kind of defeats the purpose because your fingers are the ones that are going to get shot, but they use that for that grip. If you don't really care about protecting your fingers and you're kind of like, I'll deal with it, mechanics gloves from like Home Depot or any kind of outdoor type store, they work really well. They don't have any protection, but they have really good grips, so you're able to grip your gun effectively, reload, all that kind of stuff. It just feels really nice, but also optional. Camouflage. Okay, camouflage. Optional. Cannot stress this enough, especially as a beginner. Optional. Right? You can just as easily show up wearing full black or full green or full brown than putting hundreds, if not thousands of dollars into a ghillie suit or military grade camo. I personally, what I do is I wear brown or green pants, a black upper part or camouflage upper part, and like a black vest or a green vest. So I'm kind of mismatched in my colors. The more effective players out there, the ones that have been in the sport for a long, long time and play very often, find that the use of camo is important, especially if it matches the environment. The camouflage for the Northeast is going to be different than the Midwest or the deserts or the jungles or the black forest of Europe. There's all going to be different colors, different patterns that are going to work differently. So definitely optional. I would say as a beginner, just wear what's comfortable. Wear ankle boots. Wear comfortable pants. Wear a jacket that's going to protect you from rain if it's raining. From the cold if it's cold, obviously. And if it's kind of warmer, you can kind of shave off some layers. You can just show up with a t-shirt of some kind, a nice breathable t-shirt. Definitely optional, but use whatever you got from home to start off. Lastly, you're going to be wanting to have a good attitude, especially as a beginner. You're going to run into people that will say, "Oh, you didn't shoot me, you didn't hit me." Sometimes you won't. If you're using a rental gun, or if you're not used to how the game operates, you'll be shooting at people, and you think that you're hitting them, especially because BBs will disappear into the distance, and you think that you're hitting them, but maybe you're not, and maybe you are, or the enemy just didn't feel it. Maybe you hit them on a soft part of their armor, or maybe you hit their gun and they didn't hear it or feel it, and they just generally didn't know. So the most important thing is communication. Talk with another player. Don't get mad. Don't yell. Say, "Oh, I got you first. Why don't you call your hits?" It's all about respect in this game. It's all about honor, because unlike paintball, Airsoft is a strictly honor-based game. There are people out there that won't call their hits, and you'll see the BB hit them, physically see them. It'll dunk right in between their eyes or on a bare patch of skin, and you know for sure they're out, and they won't call it. Cheaters exist. I haven't run into very many actual cheaters in my life. Most of the time, probably 80% of the time, it's just someone who didn't feel it or didn't know, or is at such a distance where the velocity of the BB hitting them just didn't register. So definitely kind of shake your head, maybe mutter to yourself, "I understand that," and just go about your day. We're all about just having fun in the outdoors, shooting each other, slinging BBs, plasto, blasto, all that good stuff. It might suck in the moment if you get point blanked, or if your hiking shoes sink into mud, especially if you live in a wet, swampy area. It's kind of annoying, but that's part of learning and being better for next time. So, those are all of my tips and tricks and recommendations for a beginner airsofter in terms of gear, attitude, all that kind of stuff. I think conclusion is this: if you're not sure if you'll like the game or not, just rent your equipment. Just show up as you are: jacket, jeans, shoes. Spend the $30 or whatever it is for a rental gun and a face mask. See how it is. See how you like it. And the next time you come back, maybe rent the next step up if they offer that. Or buy, that $100 to $200 gun that you were looking at online that looked really cool. And keep your whole attire minimum. Have one or two mags, have a face mask, have a gun. Go out like that. It's not a lot of investment. Maybe you play it for a couple of months, or you play very rarely, maybe once or twice every half year, or even worse, which is sad, like once a year. Maybe don't upgrade all your parts. Maybe don't spend thousands of dollars on all the upgrades and the cool optics and sights and all this and that, and cool operator headsets with like the microphone and night vision. You don't need all that. You don't need it. If you want it, go for it. I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. But as a beginner, as someone who's going to be getting into it for the first time, keep it kind of minimum. Keep it cool. Keep it fresh. And just have fun. That's the most important thing. All right, guys. I know it's been kind of a different video. I haven't done a sit-down talk like this ever for anything. Well, I mean, podcasts are different, but in terms of like an actual informational video about a hobby, pretty rare. But that's mainly because I have a kid coming in less than a month at time of recording. So the time where I'm going to be able to get out and play Airsoft and participate in my other hobbies is going to be very minimal. It already has been minimal at this point, just with how crazy my work schedule is and my family life and preparing for the baby. So hopefully I'll be able to make more of these videos where I can share my thoughts and my opinions on different Airsoft related activities. Maybe not gameplay videos. I still have gameplay videos from October 2022 and of this year that I haven't edited yet. I've had some issues with editing software, so that's fun. That's great. But that's how it goes sometimes. So thank you all very much for watching and or listening if you kind of put this on in the background. I know there's not a lot of visuals. I don't even have any of my Airsoft gear here. It's all down in storage because I don't want to have it like mounted on the wall when the apartment looks really cool and really fresh. But maybe that's a thing for later. Maybe that'll happen in this apartment definitely in my house, future house. I don't have a house, but I will. Maybe. Depends how the economy goes and how much money I spend on airsoft. Alrighty, guys. Again, thank you so much. This has been Ginger Jesus. This has been Caleb. And I. We'll catch you in the next one. Deuces.